I'll be honest, in the first 15 minutes, I was calling it against Gambit. I felt like the lead that WE had built up and had earned themselves was going to be so difficult to bounce back from. And the over-aggression from WE ends up biting them in the backside. Gambit pull it back, regardless of Genja's build. They managed to have a fantastic turnaround. Let's talk very generally about the game before we get into some specific replays. Deficio, what was your take?
Every time we had a team fight, it went in Gambit's favor, and I have to give so much credit to someone like Genja and of course Diamond on Evelyn, because we see the big dragon fight we have, it's 4-man ultimate from Diamond, then he gets dove onto, and then the rest of Gambit just comes and piles onto WE and kills them in every single team fight. Once they got out of this laning phase, went in favor of Gambit. It's a very strong play.
I agree that Gambit was really strong in the mid to late game, but in the early game, they lost heavily. You saw the dive onto Darian at the start, and then you saw a lot of dives in mid onto Alex. You saw the solo dragon by Vi. Like, they even had warded up for the dragon. They just didn't expect the Vi to solo a dragon. So they lost out completely in the early game again. And that's how they lost yesterday.
So just like in the LCS, Gambit have a very poor laning phase. They pull themselves back in the mid game. We've got a replay of one of those dives. This one takes place at about 40 minutes in the game. I want to jump straight into it because the early game was just littered with WE aggression, dive after dive after dive, and they managed to make it work. Froggen, talk me through what's happening here.
Okay, so before we get to actually starting this replay, I want to highlight Vi was walking through this ward bottom. There was a ward here from Gambit. There was wards all over the bottom side of the map, except for the tripers. So they just walk from the bottom lane side of the map all the way to the mid lane. They just walked all the way in, and they just simply go for the dive. And if we play it here, the Loner completely misses the ultimate. Vi completely misses the Q. Despite of all that, they still get the free kill. And like even when Necton joins in because he pushed up the top lane. And that's the World Elite we wanted to see yesterday, but they just didn't show up. But the early game from WE was extremely good.
Yeah, so that was the first replay. We can get that one down. We'll get the next one lined up. Deficio's going to talk us through the team fight that really got Gambit back into the game. You know, as the game progressed, WE continued to push down the lanes. They kept diving. And you have to feel that that Morgana pick with Soul Shackles and Black Shield was fairly effective in some of those engagements, regardless of Edward's targeting. And it was just WE arguably putting themselves in a poor position. They kept fighting over and over and over. What do you think they could have done to have avoided being caught out?
WE kept fighting bottom lane, and the bottom lane was losing from WE. They were down like 20 to 30 CS. They didn't really do anything on the bottom lane. Like, Conan was roaming a few times, and that might be why they were down. Edwards had a base where Shao was flashing over a wall, but the base went off anyway. Stuff like that. And then the Vi, the Leona, and the Lucian tried to fight the Evelyn, VODS, and Morgana that has a ton of CC. They're so tanky with the Evelyn ultimate as well. They can never get onto Genja. I was actually fearing a bit in the early game because Ed was focusing with the Black Shield. He was always Black Shielding himself instead of Genja, which led to some questionable 3 versus 3 skirmishes. But really well played by Gambit in these.
Well, talk us through the next team fight. This was a little later in the game, closer to 20 minutes. This was a team fight that we were talking about. WE, they just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper into Gambit's territory, and finally Gambit were able to group up. Let's pull that replay up on your screen first of all, so you can actually see what we're talking about. And Deficio, talk me through the fight.
Yeah, so WE are doing the Chinese style of just hyper-aggressive early game. They actually already picked on a kill to Edward, but if you notice when we get into the replay here, the ultimate's being down from WE. There's no Bio ultimate, there's no ultimate on Lucian, and there's no ultimate on Leona, so they go really, really deep into the area of Gambit, even though they don't actually have the tools to fight. And if we just roll it here, you will notice how they go in for the engage, and without any ultimates, and with, of course, Darian coming down here in the bot lane, this is actually the key thing, that he's roaming down, jumping in, joining for the fight. And this is what you see. No ultimates except for the Gragas ultimate from World Elite side. And that is so aggressive, and that is actually so risky play by them. It's the thing that turns it around for Gambit here, because they're 4k gold behind. But after this fight, they get so much. Every single member from World Elite is gonna die. They're gonna finish off Lucian first, and then of course they're just gonna chase them down. Notice Genja coming from the base, joining in on the fight. And the reason we show this is simply because when you decide to fight, after you have actually used all your ultimate on killing the support, deep inside the area of the enemy jungle, you have no vision of the enemy top laner. Your own top laner, who's 5-2-1, is up in the top lane. He's not even there to join in. you really go way too deep. And that's what Gambit punished. That's why they got back in the game.
Yeah, so that is the end of the replay. We can get rid of that one from your screens for now. We do actually have the interview ready, so we'll talk on Gambit versus TPA in a moment once that's wrapped up. I do have to ask you about Genji's build because we were discussing it. Infinity Edge on his first back after grabbing a double kill in excess of farming. Zephyr as his second item. Arguing the effectiveness considering how well he played is somewhat difficult, but it is very not standard.
Well, normally, especially for Genji, who is a person who loves to use his abilities as an AD carry and not focus too much on auto-attacking, you would go Bloodthirster Last Whisper on Varus for ultimate poke onto your Q, and also against the lineup here with both Leona and Vi obviously diving onto you, Renekton following in. You normally are not going to get too many auto-attacks off, that's why you want to go this ability build with Last Whisper and Bloodthirster, but of course, due to the Black Shield and due to Lulu ultimate, I actually think he decided to go with more auto-attack based build because he felt he was safe and he could actually auto-attack in the team fights.
It also gives tenacity, if recalls correctly, so
it does
times
too.
the Black Shield's not there, doesn't have to go for those Merc trades. So anyway, guys, I do believe that the interview is ready, and if memory serves, it will be Diamond on stage with Shark, so let's see what he has to say.